Well, you guys have been asking, where are all the commitments? They're coming pretty shortly.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. We'll talk about Gametime here in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks for everybody for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Jimmy, recruiting is about to get busy, and you can tell that I mean business by the way I spelled busy over there to my right. Maybe your left. I'm not sure how this camera thing works.
But me neither.
things are about to get nutty. It's going to start with Sincere Johnson on June 19th, which is it's like in 2 days, man. Now, I think Sincere Johnson's going to end up committing to Ohio State, but on the heels of that, you're going to have E.J. Crowell. And then you've just got a slew of commitments coming after that. And meanwhile, somebody who I don't even think has an actual date, Brian Williams Jr., has just been crystal balled to Alabama, another wide receiver out of Florida. And, so what do you think about the upcoming days?
It is going to get a little crazy. I mean, considering Alabama's or somewhere around, I don't even know the number. I think it's six or seven commitments right now. I'm counting up. I looked at BOL's got this good breakdown of announcement dates, like when are the dates that all these kids are announcing. And there's a gaggle of kids out there who don't have announcement dates yet, but it's getting down to the nitty gritty where you can kind of now more logically project where Alabama's likely to end up. And no, I don't have a specific guess as to, okay, it's this guy, it's this guy, it's this guy, but I counted up today, Luke, 23. I think ultimately 23 guys could be a part of this class. And of course, 23, it could be wrong, could be as few as 20. 23 means maybe as many as 26. But I came up with 23 guys that I think will be committed to Alabama. And this may happen all by the end of July. So we're talking about roughly 17 commitments in the next 6 weeks, and what that's like 3 a week, math wise. Now it's not going to happen that way based on when the commit. Most of this will happen in July, but as we've talked about the recruiting calendar, it's so crazy now. But we have to think of it as this: June is visit month, July is commitment month. Even though they're not signing to December, got a lot of things to say about NIL Go and all that, but. But one point I want to make real quick while I'm on the subject is, Luke, I think based on the way the rules are set up right now, I anticipate less flips than we've seen in recent years. I do think there will be flips. I'm not saying forget flips. That's a thing of the past. Not saying that at all. Fewer flips. And that will affect Alabama. I think we'll get fewer guys ourselves because I think kids are just sort of locked in. And because of NIL Go, the last minute big bag thing, it may happen. I'm not saying it's not or can't. It just seems less likely to happen under the new rule setup. So I think these kids that commit in July, you got to work to keep them, and you got to keep recruiting them all the way to signing day. But I think July is going to tell pretty much the whole story for everybody in this cycle under these new rules.
Yeah, I think things could begin to calm down on that front. By the way, I've seen a lot about flipping here recently. I think Josh Pate did a story on it or did a video on it that like less than 20% of recruits flip. So it seems like a million of them because when they do flip, it's a big deal and you hear about it. And when they don't flip, they just sort of fade into the ether.
Yeah.
But another thing again, and I've harped on this, it bugs me to no end. It's really coming from the Auburn side on somebody like CD Morgan or some of these other guys that, people are saying, oh, well, we think he'll commit to Alabama, but Auburn will flip him. Why? Why do you think that? On what
That's-
basis do you have for that?
Yeah, I'm guilty of it to an extent, although it's just wish casting. And I do this. That's why I'm terrible picking games, by the way, against you thinking, since I spend literally multiple hours every day all year long in college football, you're like, man, you ought to bet games and I'm terrible at that because I do a lot of wish casting, which means I pick games the way I want them to come out, as opposed to a logical, that's the way they want it to come out. So they're forecasting it because it's the way they want it to come out. But there's just less flips. I think because of revenue share and NIL Go, which means all NIL deals must be reviewed and approved by Deloitte. I don't think there's as much monkey business after the commitment, right? It's not like someone can swoop in and say, hey, we found an extra $1 million. Well, you got to send that through NIL Go. What's the legitimate tie to name, image, and likeness to justify this $1 million, and who's it coming from? Because if it's coming from a public company and hey, we got you a deal with Dr. Pepper, okay, NIL Go's going to say, okay, that's good. But when they say this booster showed up and gave our collective $1 million and we're going to hand it to you, no, that's a no-go with NIL Go. That's an NIL stop. So I think, there's going to be less of it. Now, people are going to say, boy, you're just foolish. Of course, there's going to be cheating and people getting around it. I know that. But I don't think it will be widespread. I don't think it will be like the wild, wild west like it has been. It will still be that, but to a much smaller degree.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, in that same vein, I love what you brought up, the fact that BOL and look, I've been begging for this. I don't know why I didn't do it. Partially because I'm lazy, but where the BOL put out, okay, here are the dates for when people are going to be committing.
And it's all public stuff. It's all public stuff because the kids have all put this out, or the kids have all. Yeah, it's all public stuff, but it's
public. But I hadn't seen
they organized it.
I hadn't seen it in one place like this. And again, I think I talked about this in a video a while back. But one I wasn't familiar with, June 19th, obviously, Sincere Johnson. We expect here at Locked On Bama for that to be Ohio State. So be it. Yep. Could he flip eventually? Yes. I'm not going to pull some of these Auburn moderator things and say, well, he'll just flip later.
Instead of saying flip, what I would say, I think a smarter thing to say instead of that wish casting is set yourself up for the portal. Yeah. Don't burn bridges. Yeah. I mean, maybe the kid could go to Ohio State and have some sort of bad experience, in terms of getting on the field or, whatever. But you set yourself up. You're not setting yourself up necessarily to flip him before signing day, but you want a good experience. So if he ever enters the portal, he's like, you know what? I really liked Alabama. I'm going to look at them again.
Then on the 26th, which will be a week later, you'll have E.J. Crowell. We expect that to be Alabama. And you also have Max Sutter. Okay, that was interesting. I didn't know about his date.
Yep.
That could be a nice day for Bama.
I wouldn't say, well, with EJ, the running back from Jackson, long thought to be heavy Alabama lean. So we can project. I don't think there's official RPMs over at BOL from Tim and the guys, but I think it's fair to project that Crowell will sign with Alabama or pick Alabama. Sutter, I would say today, where's Max Sutter going to go? Alabama, I believe. And by the way, this is a national top 100 tight end. All you need to know about a tight end from the Midwest, my first question about how good he is, my first question will be, does he have an offer from Ohio State? Because they're a good tight end program and play pretty physical brand of football. And yeah, he does. He's also heavily sought after by his in-state school, Illinois, who most of the time you would think, yeah, well, no one's going to choose Illinois over Alabama. Well, if you're from Illinois and Illinois is on an uptick, maybe they will, and they are. I mean, this is as good as
he's a tight end dude.
Correct. Brett Bielema, would be I need multiple tight ends. So yes, Illinois wants him. Yes, Ohio State wants him. This is a national top 100 thing, and would be a big deal for Alabama, particularly when you pair him with what Alabama did a year ago with Caleb Edwards and Marshall Pritchett. And you can really see the talent level in that room rising. So Sutter, I would say Alabama, probably a little more optimistic on EJ. You never know until you know, but that's the way I would feel about it today.
We're going to go over some more of these dates right after I tell you about game time. Game time. Where would I be without you? There's nothing like the NBA playoffs. Last night was a fun game again. 2 guys combined for 71 points for the Thunder. There's intensity. There's buzzer beaters. There's fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And if you were fortunate enough to live close to Indianapolis and you want to go to that game, whenever that is, because nobody can keep up with the schedule anymore, then
it's Thursday.
Or Thursday, something like that. Then you need to go to Game Time and get you a killer last-minute deal. You can find your panoramic seat view, no surprise fees. That's a beautiful thing. I was just on the app looking at this, and there are some really, really good deals out there.
How cool would it be to be at an NBA? And by the way, that would be the Pacers trying to push it to a Game 6, right?
Game 7.
No, Game 7, I meant. Whew, what an environment.
Another thing, I was on the app, and there's 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. That's pretty awesome for those of you who like soccer. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Can't beat that with a stick. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. All one word, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, and that's guaranteed, people. All right, let's talk about a few more of these dates here. I was wrong. Brian Williams will be announcing on July 1st. I want to throw that out there first. And he has been crystal balled to Alabama. So, and if you notice over there on the right, I have one in, one out. Well, one in is Brian Williams. The one out is probably Brandon Arrington. Brandon Arrington will announce July 5th, but it ain't going to be Alabama. It's going to be A&M or Oregon. My bet is it's Oregon. And
I think Oregon too.
So be it. It's so funny. It's off the heels of a visit to Alabama where it looked like everything he posted was, holy cow, I'm going to Alabama. But, Jimmy, you and I didn't take the bait. We knew it.
High. Visit highs, right?
Well, not only was it a visit high, I think also Brandon Arrington is I'm going to play the game guy. What he did, see what you can do while you're one of these recruits at these places. If you just inundate your social media with pro whatever that school is, guess what? You're going to get a ton more followers. And then I would assume that they monetize these things. And the more followers you have, the more money you get. And so it's a brilliant move. It really is.
And you could be kind of negotiating, driving up your price at the place where you really want to go.
Exactly.
Because then they're worried you're going to go. And Alabama does provide legitimate worry to an Oregon or an A&M that you could pick Alabama. It's pretty realistic. So it's there's all sorts of reasons to do that. Here's another one. But it's also honest. I mean, I'm sure Brandon Arrington had a big time. I'm sure he would enjoy playing football at Alabama. It's not like you have this favorite and all these other places stink. Generally, these kids are choosing between, it would be great if I go to anywhere of my top 10 choices, much less my top 2 or 3. So I think ultimately what this came down to is he wants to play corner. That's what he wants to do. Alabama has 2 corners committed in Zion Gibson and Jordan Edmonds, who are great. I'm not saying that chased Arrington off. It didn't. But you already have 2 corners. I'm sure there's rev share, NIL stuff going on with Arrington. It's kind of, look at his 2 finalists are well-known big spenders, right? Now, it's a new world, so you can't just say, they're going to give him a lot more NIL money. They can. It just has to be approved. And Nike might be well situated to get a lot of approvals based on tie-ins to Nike. I don't know that. I'm just, logically guessing that. But I think between NIL rev share, Alabama already having 2 corners committed, and geography, because Luke agrees Oregon. And yes, you are going to have to fly no matter what. But, Oregon is closer to California. I did graduate from Alabama, and they told us that, at school. Oregon's closer to California than Alabama is. So I actually believe that geography still is an underrated or underranked factor. I think money's number one. I would say geography is still probably number
with
two.
NIL go, it may become more of a factor because with NIL no go, it was just like, hey, your parents need to fly in here. Why don't I just send 9 U.S. military jets to go get them?
If every monetary offer is the same, now we're sort of back to the old days, right? If every monetary offer is roughly the same, we're back to the old days of why kids pick schools in the first place, which is good for Alabama. But hey, as I tell people all the time, pre-NIL, Alabama recruited great. During the NIL era, Alabama recruited great. Nothing's going to change.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite must be correct. $1 to Seinfeld and George.
That's right, George. That's right, George.
Okay, so the June 28th, Deacon Schmidt, I've heard very little activity there. I would assume it's not Bama.
I don't think this is Alabama, but it's possible. I don't think another kid that really enjoyed his visit. I don't think that will be Alabama, but it is possible. They're working on him.
June 29th is a big one. It's Xavier Griffin, and the reports out of his visit to Texas are very positive in favor of Alabama. Then we mentioned July 1 is Brian Williams. Again, this is a wide receiver from Lake Mary, Florida. Not the highest rated dude, but if you get him on July 1 and then you get your next receiver on July 2 and Mr. Sedarian Morgan, all of a sudden you got your receivers locked down. Now, what somebody may say is, well, Luke, what about Booby Feaster? You know, and then there's one other receiver whose name escapes me right now. Jimmy, help me.
Tristan Keys.
Tristan Keys, who's there right now.
He's there today. Yeah, I mean, and all that stuff could happen. I'm not going to sit here and say Alabama's not getting Booby Feaster, Alabama's not getting Tristan Keys. I'm just telling you what's most likely to happen. And I think most likely to happen is Brian Williams and C.D. Morgan, and maybe Owen Cabell, the wide receiver from Tennessee, could be a third. Money is such a huge factor here. Need everybody to remember, let's stop focusing on NIL and focus more on revenue share. I mean, certain money that the kids are getting from the schools. Rev share, you're budgeting from about 2 or 3 different areas. You have a budget in terms of recruiting class. You have an overall budget. You have a budget per position. So if you go big with a CD Morgan, I'm not sure what's left at wide receiver. I mean, you want to spend it all at wide receiver? Fine. Then you got a bunch of cheap offensive linemen. I'm not sure that's a good.
That's not what you want.
That's not a good formula. That's right. So it's who's going to spend the rev share smartly. And as we've talked about here in Locked on Bama, I hadn't heard anybody else really talk about it, but it's just true. I do think you're going to see more, for lack of a better term, 3-stars signing with an Alabama, a Georgia, and LSU than you have in the past. Why? It helps you make budget and fill your roster. So you want to be good? Here's the new home run in recruiting. How's this? The new home run in recruiting is not landing C.D. Morgan. Is that a big deal? Oh, heck yeah, it's a big deal. And you've got to be able to do that to do things like win championships. But a real home run in recruiting, Luke, is finding the cost-efficient guy who happens to develop into a star. Now you've got something. It's the equivalent of drafting a quarterback in the NFL draft, drafting one in the 4th round, and he's great, and he's your starter, and now you have him for 4 years at a certain amount. Now you can build a whole team around him because your quarterback's cheap. That's just an example of the home run it is, I think, now when you go get one of these 3-stars that ends up being a great player. Because really what you're trying to do is fill out your roster, make budget. And then when that guy ends up a dude, man, that's where you've really done something. And I do think Brian Williams is a guy that sort of fits that profile. So is that kid from Tennessee, the wide receiver, Owen Cabell from Nashville.
I think evaluations.
They're not costly like C.D. Morgan and Tristan Keys and Booby Feaster.
Yeah, look, it's in the NFL draft. It's easy to pick 1st-round guys. Usually, it's usually pretty easy. Yeah, there's some busts and all that, but it's usually pretty easy. But the teams that are successful are the ones that get the dudes in the later rounds. You know?
Build a team.
Feel like it's going to be so important to evaluate. I mean, in a perfect world, look, and in Nick Saban era times, Alabama would have a great shot at C.D. Morgan, Tristan Keys, and Booby Feaster. What a haul that would be. Because, I mean, hey, they got Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs all in the same class. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy, but that's not going to happen anymore because you can't blow your budget on those three dudes. So evaluating the 3 stars is going to become so incredibly crucial.
And
all right, so the Elite 11 starts today. We won't spend a lot of time on it, but it's going to be interesting to follow because you still got Jet Tamala there. You got Landon Duckworth there. I'm interested in him just because he's from the state. Now, I think he's going to end up at South Carolina. I know he just visited Auburn, and Auburn may break the bank to get him because, after having such a celebration about how they dominated in state last year, they aren't doing so well in state this year, and they may want a win desperately. So,
you got to wonder for them. Let me ask you a question. I wonder, now that they've had a few months to really look at Deuce Knight, don't you think that affects how much you're willing to spend on the next guy?
Yeah.
You know what I think? I mean, now they had a spring practice to look at Deuce Knight and determine in their minds how great. If they're 100% convinced Deuce is going to be fantastic, then why would they overspend on the guy in the next class? Now, if they look at Deuce Knight and they're like, maybe, not sure. You see what I'm saying? That's the way us college football fans have to think, period, because of splitting the money and revenue share. So I agree with Luke. I think Landon Duckworth out there is real fascinating. To be honest, Alabama never involved with Duckworth. And I think it's fair to just assume that Alabama's like, pass there. But, could be right, could be wrong.
We're going
to be talking about Gunnar Rivers all next year. His dad's a borderline NFL Hall of Fame quarterback. I should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, by the way. But Alabama and Auburn passed on him. I mean, it's gone on forever. I mean, these are tough evaluations. These aren't easy questions about who's going to be great, who's going to be good, who's not. But I think Alabama sort of passed on Duckworth. But Alabama's got 4 other quarterbacks at the Elite 11. Even Derek Zammit, if you remember, the apple of Alabama's eye a month ago or two months ago, Derek Zammit, he's made it to Elite 11. Whoever's choosing the guys for Elite 11 to be out there, that Elite 11 staff, they're obviously in simpatico with Alabama. Every Alabama quarterback's at the Elite 11, which is amazing considering you signed Keelan Russell a year ago and you think there's no way they're going to be able to get a quarterback of any real significance in the next class because you just signed Keelan, who was certainly pricey and certainly a guy they're all aware of. But Derek Zammit, Tamala, Bryson Beaver, Matt Ponatowski, he's at Elite 11 too.
You really like that word simpatico, don't you?
That's 2 days in a row I've used it.
2 days in a row you've used it.
And I bet I've probably, how many times I've used it not on Locked on Bama? Never.
The over-under was 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy, your roster countdown, we're going to get into that. It continues to roll on. What number are we on and who you got?
Well, 45, who we sort of, 45's actually yesterday as we record this today. Connor Talty. Boy, talk about a guy we just don't talk about. We don't talk about Connor Talty. And it's kind of crazy that we don't talk about Connor Talty because he's clearly the starting kicker, had a pretty good spring at Alabama. And heck, you could talk about Connor Talty in the same way you could talk about Ty Simpson. Okay, I want you to compare. Now, I know Connor's going to be a redshirt sophomore and Ty's a redshirt junior. But think about this. Talty's never been a starting kicker, has never really kicked. Now, he's been the kickoff guy all last year, but in terms of field goals, hadn't really done it. Ty Simpson hadn't done it. But the coaches have seen them and tracked them and monitored them. And last year when the season was over, if you ask the coaches, okay, who looks like who's going to be the quarterback, and say Ty, who's going to be the kicker, Connor Talty, did they run to the portal and get another guy because they didn't have confidence? No, they didn't. Then they go all the way through spring practice with 15 official practices, 2 scrimmages, and a day. Now they've seen them in their role as starters. Did they go to the spring portal and say, we need a kicker, we need a quarterback? No. So I look at Talty the same way as I do Ty Simpson. There's every reason to believe that the coaching staff really believes in these guys because they've had 2 opportunities to go to the portal and get someone else, and they did not. And back then there was no NIL go, by the way. They could have done it without NIL scrutiny, and they still didn't do it. So I have a lot of confidence that Talty's going to be good, but caveats. It's his first year as a starting kicker. Hey, breaking news to everyone listening. He's going to miss kicks. Of course he is. It'll be his first year as a starter. What you hope is that he's good. Let's hope he's good. And then in his junior and senior year develops into great. But kicking is just like the other spots. Will Reichard was a better kicker in year 5 than he was in year 1. Go ask him. If you don't believe me, go ask Will Reichard. You a better kicker in year 5 or year 1 at Alabama? Talty's going to get better and better, and he has gotten better and better. Because a whole year ago, Talty was the only scholarship kicker, and the Saban staff took a look at him and said, the DeBoer staff last spring looked at Talty and said, this isn't going to do. They went to the portal and got Graham Nicholson. Fast forward 1 year, and they're like, hey, now he's pretty good. So Talty's done some improving at Alabama, no question. That's why I'm excited about him, because a whole year ago, they're like, we need to go to the portal and get a guy. They got Graham Nicholson. Now they're looking at Talty and going, we don't need a guy now. He's ready to go. So Connor Talty at 45. Any comments about him before we move to 44?
He's still most known for making a big tackle on a kickoff, right?
Yeah, he's a pretty physical dude to be a kicker. He's kind of not ripped and shredded, but he's a bigger,
he's aggressive
kicker. We probably didn't talk about the fact he was our kickoff guy all last year. Not the Lou Groza winner. Connor Talty was kicked off for Alabama all last season. 44 is Lotzier Brooks. Lotzier Brooks. Notice I said Lotzier if you were here for the pronunciation
His
show.
nickname is Lots, though.
His nickname is Lots, but Lotzier Brooks. Boy, did he have a buzzy spring. He had a great scrimmage, too, this past spring, making plays against quality competition. I couldn't be more confident about how good Brooks is. He's back here at 44, and that catches us up to it is 44 days until fall practice starts. 44 sounds low, but think about this: 22 players on the field. Everybody's got a 2 deep. We have him in the 2. He's in the 2 deep, right? As a true freshman. I'm not comparing him to Ryan Williams because that's insane. I'll just say I'm as confident Brooks is going to be really good as I was in Ryan Williams, that he's going to be really. Brooks is going to be really good. In his own way. Now, will he be as good? Well, that's kind of a big, tall hill to climb, isn't it? But Lotzier Brooks is going to be good. I'm already convinced. And I'm not going off high school tape. Yes, high school tape, but then verify it on a college football field against college football players. I've sort of seen enough and heard enough. He's going to be good. To me, it's about opportunity. You got Ryan Williams. You got Jeremy Bernard. You got Zay Horton. You got older, proven kids that are more ready. So I'm not sure how much we're going to see of him, but we're going to see him. He's too good not to play. So I'm super excited about him. Playmaker, wiggle guy. I think in terms of play style, I'm going to go Jalen Waddle. Did I comp him to Jalen Waddle? No. I said play style, meaning if you've seen Jalen Waddle, that's what Lotzier Brooks can look like. He's got that burst. He's got that speed. He has shockingly good ball skills. He plays wide receiver like a track guy. But with all the track guys, your first question is, yeah, but what about your ball skills? Usain Bolt has no ball skills, or we would have been $1 trillion receiver in the NFL, right? Ball skills are vital. You can even be, quote, slow and play pro football at wide receiver if you have incredible ball skills. Brooks has track speed and great ball skills. That makes for a wow player. And I do think he's going to be a wow player. I'm just not going to say he's Ryan or he's Jalen Waddle, because that's just not fair to the kid. But runs like a track prospect, ball skills, just A+.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We will be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.